Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Pete Carroll Was Right, the confusingly named Alabama Football Live show. As always, we've been in here to talk all things Alabama football with you. So the election for the election day for the U.S. was last night, but the Tide actually decided to do some early voting this weekend as they elected to kick ass in Baton Rouge, just as their head coach had hoped.
Nick did seem pretty pleased, right? After the game. I think that sort of lived up to his hopes. Carter, sort of looking big picture, Carter, I forget whether you mentioned this in a text message to us or on Twitter, but you sort of made the point that the game really wasn't even as close as 29-0 suggests, right? Like based on the yardage and the success rates and stuff, it was pretty lopsided.
I mean, you think about it should have been 31-0, first of all, just based on extra points. And second, if you look at the post-game win expectancy, the adjusted scoring margin based on S&P is 42.5. And first of all, 97th overall, which is tied for their best with Mizzou. And then they were in 94th percentile, both offense and defense, which is actually the best they've done in either of those categories all year. I don't know if I would, just based on my viewing of it, whether I would say that was their best offensive performance of the year. I think it was the offensive line's best performance. I think it was the best performance by the running game for sure. And maybe they would have had throwing the ball had LSU's DBs not been peak Seahawks holding the whole time, but so it's fine. They played great on both sides of the ball and absolutely wasted a team, which they should have done that too.
Yeah. Mitch, what did you think sort of of the game from sort of a, holistic perspective?
Fairly dominant. I'll be interested to see how Devin White plays next week when he comes off his suspension. Because it didn't. I don't remember seeing him out there in the second half.
I remember seeing him get absolutely trucked by Najee Harris.
The offensive line was just so dominant that Alabama could just do whatever they wanted running the ball. And I initially was kind of disappointed that they didn't play with a little bit more pace than they did, but as easily as they were able to run the ball and as well as the LSU DBs played, it's just go with what the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start as the running game. That was there. I think there was a lot of things. This game, I think, probably played out the way we and a lot of other people expected it to, really on both sides of the ball, I would say. I think the one thing, for instance, we'll get to the defense in a minute, but things basically went as we expected on that side of the ball. And I think on offense, the passing game was kind of as expected, right? It was effective, but it met some resistance, and the LSU DB plays well, and it was a pretty contested matchup. I think the one thing that we maybe weren't 100% confident on one way or the other is exactly how the Alabama run game would fare, especially if Tua wasn't able to be used in the running game, and ultimately he wasn't able to be. Now, you guys, I know Mitch especially, and I think Carter too, you guys were pretty confident that they were going to be able to run the ball. I was a little bit less sure, but I admit that it seemed like a pretty good matchup. They certainly ran the ball extremely well. I mean, they ran the ball really well. I think the offensive line gets a lot of the credit, and that's well deserved, and we can spend a lot of time talking about that. But I think one of maybe the sort of under-discussed elements of this game was that the backs played really well. That was one of Damian Harris's best games that he's ever played at Alabama, probably.
Yeah.
He was one of Najee's best games that he's played at Alabama in a very limited number of carries. Like, he certainly made the most of his opportunities. Josh Jacobs played well too. Like, I mean, the backs were just incredible. Like, for the most part, like, the offensive line did their job, but there were times where there was free rushers coming in the backfield on running plays, and Damian or Najee made the guy miss, and Damian was especially dynamic in the open field. Like, they were great.
Yeah, no, it takes to have a game like that. It really takes a complete effort from both the line and the backs, and you can give guys all the daylight you want, but if they're not hitting holes decisively, and sometimes there's just going to be more guys than you can block, and so it's up to the back to make that mistake. It was really one of the most impressive days running the football that Alabama's had, certainly this season, and one of the most impressive I've seen in a long time.
Well, and especially considering like the bigness of the game and the quality of the opposing defense, and just like the general difficulty of that situation. Like, they've had, like, with Jalen or whatever, like, they've had some amazing running days, in the last few years, I should say. But I think it's been a long time since they had a day quite like that, especially when the quarterback really wasn't helpful in the design running game. Now, Tua made a couple plays, including a long touchdown run on a passing play. But I don't think that they've had a day like that in quite a while, without the aid of the QB run game, where they just were just dominant against, like, in like a big spot against a good defense, right?
Yeah. I mean, you think about games they've had like that. I mean, I don't know. You think about the game that comes to mind just randomly for me is the national champ, the first game against Clemson, and Derrick Henry ran for a lot of yards in that game, but as the running game that year tended to be, it was very boom or bust. Right. I mean, he hits like a 50-yard touchdown run on one of his early carries of the game, but like, a lot of stuffs, a lot of 0, -1, 1, 2, those kind of gains. It's just, it didn't seem like Alabama backs were ever getting taken down in the backfield on Saturday.
Yeah. Does anybody? So I was trying to look at the advanced stats here. Can I see their success rate just running the ball?
They have I think
63%.
Okay, 63%. I'm going to assume that's really good.
Really good. Yeah. really good.
Against A&M, it was 35%.
Okay. And it says now, so national average is 42. There's the stuff rate in that game was 13% for Alabama. National average is 20. These numbers are really good. But I think one of the interesting things, though, is that it says that the line yards per. So we're talking about how great the backs were. So line yards per carry. I'm assuming that's the amount of yards that the line creates on average before contact or something.
Yeah, basically. So I think Bill, or I think this is like a general Football Outsider stat. But line yards basically are like 0 through 5, and then beyond that, and so like any yards from like up to 5 yards, it's assumed that the offensive line is responsible for those yards, and any yards beyond that, the back is purely responsible for. So I think it's 0 to 5 is line yards, and above 5 is called like highlight yards.
Okay.
They also do like if the run goes for a loss, they get like kind of heavily punished.
So it says that the line yards per carry for Alabama was 3.36 in this game, and the national average is 2.46. So it was above average, but at least, I mean, I don't really have any conception of like what's really good or what's really bad, but that doesn't seem to be like phenomenal, which I think speaks to how well the backs probably played in this game.
So the average is 2.46, and they had 3.46.
3.36. So 0.9.
I mean, that's
pretty big.
That's a pretty big deviation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it bears out. So like, I definitely made this point on Twitter, that, we have talked about, we talked about the potential for this in the offseason. We've talked about how great this line is in pass protection, and the stats bear that out. They're 16th in standard down sack rate, 4th in sack rate overall, and 10th in passing down sack rate. But the like run-based numbers for the offensive line are actually really great too. Like standard down line yards per carry, they're 2nd overall in the country with an like 3.47. So that they were only slightly off that number in the game. So that, you know, that 3.36 number for the LSU game, it's, you know, probably like if you average that, you'd be top 10 in the country, basically.
Gotcha. So okay, so then to sort of transition to the offensive line, they played really well, right?
Like they gave up a sack, which was the 3rd or 4th sack they've given up on Tua all year, maybe 4th. But that one was a cover. Like the only times they were ever pressed, it was because of the DBs. Like he basically had all day to throw the whole time.
Yeah. What did you guys think specifically in the run game?
Deonto Brown continues to be incredible.
Yeah, I thought he played really well.
He was really good.
Really good effort too, like, you know, chasing down, running down plays, cleaning up piles. Like he's like his motor and his effort level, I think, is really high, and that sort of stood out to me watching.
You know, the thing is, I mean, he's been good all year, but I think this game really hammered it home for me. I don't think coming into this season, I would have expected Jonah Williams, as good a player as he was, you know, he was so great as a freshman, and maybe had a bit of a down year at left tackle last year, but was still a really solid player. He is a dominant run blocker.
Yeah, he is.
He is really, really, really good. And I don't know that I would have expected that, because, you know, he's not the biggest or the strongest or the most athletic guy. I don't know. It's really impressive. I would not have expected him coming into this season to be that kind of a dominant player in the run game.
He's got some like Cam Robinson going on almost, like in terms of, it's specifically in the run game. I mean, in terms of like the level that he's playing, I think like he really is just mauling people. Mitch, what stood out to you about the offensive line play?
Everything. The stat that kind of sticks out to me is like the success rate by quarter. And their 4th quarter success rate was like 77%, which I think they were predominantly running the ball in that quarter anyway.
Yeah. Tua finally played in the 4th quarter. He threw 1 pass. So now he's like 1 for 1 for 24 yards in the 4th quarter on the season.
They're just so dominant in that game. It was kind of amazing.
Lots of gap schemes, like tons of gap schemes. They're using the guard. They use the guard so much as pullers, but really they used everybody.
Yeah,
you know, they kind of use like Joan. They use Joan a little bit. They use Jedrick Wills a little bit. Like so many, like very, very few zone plays. Well, I don't know if I saw a single inside zone play, at least maybe until like late in the game in garbage time. For the most part, like it was all gap schemes, both inside tackle and both between the tackles and outside. So just like really, really impressive. The other thing I wanted to talk about with the two other things I want to talk about with the run game. The first is just a quick note. Hale Henches is playing really well. Like I feel like he's kind of one of the guys that's a little bit forgotten, but like he's having a really good year, and I thought he had a really good game. And like I think like the whole offensive line was
offensive players to the week. Yeah.
And I think I think it's fair. Like the staff didn't specifically denote this, but I think like Hale Henches should definitely be included in that. Like he played a lot, and like he was really, really good in the run game. The other thing I wanted to talk about, this is sort of an extension of the run game, but it starts to get a little bit more into offensive strategy. The Devin White thing certainly became like a meme, and you know, kind of well deserved. It was like the Gary was especially like a little
it was a classic Gary game, and that he just latched on to something and just you know, everyone thinks of Tebow for this, but he does that a lot, where it's just like he gets on a talking point and he just chews that shit the whole game long. He's like a cow.
Yeah. But the only thing I would say though is that in one specific regard, I do think that that Alabama kind of took advantage of his absence, specifically in a game plan sense. I don't the jet sweeps that they ran. Now I definitely think that they noticed a little bit something probably that told them generally that they could outflank LSU on those plays that they ran like 4 or 5 of them in the first half. They haven't really done a lot.
I'm not sure we've seen any of that all year. I mean, very, very, very little of it.
But I think, so much of there's really 2 parts, right, to being successful with the jet sweep. It's outflanking them, and it's also the linebackers not being able to react and chase the play down to the
eye discipline. It's all eye discipline from linebackers.
So I don't know if Devin White would have made a difference on those plays, but I definitely think that part of the reason why Alabama went to that early was probably because they were compromised at inside linebacker.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the sort of play you call when you think your opponent's linebackers aren't very good or aren't very athletic, or that they're inexperienced and will bite on fakes or react to motion strongly. So,
and those really worked. Those worked really well. And the only one that didn't work was on that first possession, the one to Judy, which I think would have been a touchdown if there wasn't miscommunication, because I think they had that blocked out perfectly out sort of on the toward the boundary. And
they had LSU outflanked.
So that was a really smart and effective strategy that they implemented early. And I think that also sort of served to help them later in the game by sort of, stretching LSU kind of thin horizontally. And then they were really able to sort of pound the ball up the middle late. So I think that was
Lane Kiffin would be proud.
That's right. Yeah. This was the first time all year where we've seen a very sort of horizontal beginning to the game, which was obviously Lane's bread and butter. What did you guys think generally of the plan? The thing that sticks out to me about the plan is not anything related specifically to the game plan in this game, but just that I thought there was a chance that there was going to be stuff that Alabama was going to do offensively or want to do offensively that wasn't going to work. And that hasn't happened yet. That hadn't happened all year before this game. And we were going to get to see how Loxley was going to adjust. That didn't really happen. They didn't pile it on points wise in the first half, but it wasn't really a function of LSU really being able to stop Alabama. It was just another game where just the plan worked. They probably were able to stay on the plan the entire game without making any significant adjustments. And they just went with it. And it's just just another more of the same, right?
Yeah. Which is it's really incredible that when you can go the whole year. I mean, you're 9 games in. You're going to face 2 pretty strong defensive lines in Mississippi State and Auburn to end the year. You're going to face a pretty solid overall defense against Georgia. But there's a good chance you get to the playoff and you haven't had anyone put you off your game offensively, which is just, I mean, it's insane to have the kind of talent and discipline and execution to just be able to do that game in and game out.
Mitch, did you have any sort of thoughts about the scheme overall, or should we transition into Tua?
No, yeah, I think you covered it.
Okay, so then tell me what you thought about Tua.
He's still pretty good. I saw some people comment that he looked kind of mortal. That was not really the impression that I got. I thought he still played at a super high level. Had his first interception
which was an arm punt, and
yeah, it was not. I don't know. It's another one of those plays where it's he was given. Was it Judy that was on the route? I mean,
yeah,
it was a shot play.
Yeah, just trying to give him a chance to make a play. Not super critical.
It's the kind of thing you can, because I mean, it's just it was a really aggressive throw to go for that. He was kind of under pressure and he stepped forward and just launched that one into double coverage. And maybe you want to have that one back, but that, that's the kind of player Tua is. And
exactly. I think that's the point. Yeah.
For a less talented guy with that kind of mindset, maybe you want to dial that back a little bit because it's costing you more than it's gaining you. But over 9 games, it's gotten you 28, 27 touchdowns and 1 interception and maybe 2 other interception worthy plays. So maybe should have produced 3 interceptions in 9 games. you'll live with that all day with the kind of production he's giving you.
And like, I don't even remember that there was another throw that there was that much of a threat to.
Well, there was that throw in the flat out to Damian Harris. I think that was in the second quarter, which could have been intercepted by the linebacker over there, and Damian kind of got his arm in and knocked it away. I think
did y'all see Minka Fitzpatrick retweeted that play and was like, it was like, great DB play, Damian. I taught him everything he knows.
That was good. That was good. That was a bad play. There was one throw to the right side where there was some sort of misread, and it was kind of a dangerous throw. I thought LSU did a really good job. Orgeron talked specifically, I think, about how good Alabama is at running 7 routes, or like the corner routes. And I think that, and that's true, like both to Judy and Irv, like they hit so many of those. I thought LSU did a really good job taking those away. They covered them up really well when Alabama wanted to go there. Either Tua threw it and it wasn't there, or he just couldn't even throw it. They hit one and it was sort of the touchdown to Irv Smith. But other than that, like they really couldn't hit any of those corner routes, which I just think is a testament to LSU. Mitch had talked about how you don't think that this was really that Tua played at like a lesser level than he has played at before. So his stats in this game, he was 25 for 42 for 295 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's 6.74 yards per attempt. Now that's not as good as like normal Tua, or like what Tua had previously this season. So I'm curious. So I guess I'm curious, and I'm not saying I disagree, but is most of that like a testament not to a lower quality of play, but rather just to the talent and the execution of the LSU defensive backs, maybe?
I mean, so I would definitely say this wasn't like it was definitely a step down for him personally, but not to the level of him not still being just a ridiculous quarterback. I think he overthrew a few passes as well that we've seen a few times since he's had the knee problem. But yeah, I think it's just mostly a function of how well the LSU DBs played.
Carl, what do you think about Tua's overall play in the game?
Yeah, I don't think it was a considerable step down. Like I think Mitch made a good point. Like we've seen him fairly regularly overthrowing some balls, basically starting with the Mizzou game, like since he's had the knee brace on. Because I think he just is not as confident driving the ball through that front foot. Which calls him to get his weight back and kind of sail the ball a little bit. So he's making a couple of those throws a game that he really wasn't, like with Arkansas and prior. Which I really hope maybe it's probably the sort of thing where it's like it's just not going to get better until he has like months and months, or at least a month. So you're hoping that maybe that gets better for the playoff. And by the way, like just as an aside, I'm going to talk about, y'all probably are too. We're going to talk about the playoff as though that is fait accompli at this point. Which, and I normally try to at least put it in language when I that, but like I'm just going to go all in on it at this point, because that has to, like, this team, the goal needs to be not only win the national championship, but be the greatest team of all time. Right. And if you're going for that goal, then you assume the playoff. Like that's I try not to be as win the championship or bust, but like this season, like there can't be any lowering of expectations or any hedging about what you expect this team to do. So I think we're both with you. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully that gets better in the playoff, but like, even if it doesn't, like he's still the best quarterback in the country, even with that. Right. But yeah, no, I think it was a combination of that and, the windows were just tighter, and the LSU DBs made some really good plays in this game. Like, I don't think it was a whole lot more than that. And also, the dude got a helmet right to the crotch on the first series of the game and was out for like one play, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And we're not going to make a habit of complaining about that, but man, that should have been an unnecessary roughness penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that maybe they didn't hear the whistle, but like, what's the justification for allowing the defender to go low like that and like hit him, below the waist? I don't understand that. But yeah, so I'm with you guys. And I thought like he made some great throws. Both touchdown throws were phenomenal. The first touchdown play was actually really cool. I saw somebody sort of breaking this down on Twitter where it seemed like it was an RPO with a third level read, where it was like an outside zone play coupled with a backside post, and he was reading the middle of the field safety to see if he cheated over toward the run play, so he would have more room to sneak the ball in on the post. And like, that's a really sort of cool RPO design. Like, that is very advanced stuff. And well, not really advanced because it's kind of a simple read, but just I think innovative. I also thought some of the individual skill guys, pass catchers, played well. I thought Henry Ruggs had a good game before he got hurt. Like, he was really, he was playing in that X position and he was matched up a lot with Greedy and they were in man a lot. And he played really well. Like, he created separation on a few plays. He caught the touchdown. Obviously, he had that spectacular highlight reel one-handed catch.
Yeah.
I thought that was that was as impressed as I've been by Henry Ruggs in his 2 years here. And unfortunately, it was in a very abbreviated performance because of the injury. But I was impressed by him. And I was also impressed by Irv Smith. For him, he's on that touchdown, he's matched up man to man with Delpit, who I know that I understand that Delpit that's kind of the shakiest aspect of his game in man coverage, but it's still this tight end who before this year we didn't exactly think of as a down the field passing threat, and he's matched up one-on-one with a safety. And it's first of all, he made the play, but also that Tua sees that pre-snap and he's that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
That speaks so highly of Irv, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I just were really impressed. He is not the pure athlete that OJ Howard is, because 99% of tight ends aren't the kind of athlete that OJ Howard is. But I don't know. It's hard to say because of OJ played with 4 different quarterbacks in 4 years, and never in the same system and never in the kind of system that they have now. Or never, with the kind of quarterback that they have now. I guess the system is not so different than it has been the last couple of years. But
well, I do think it's fair to say that the system is also the system emphasizes the tight end a little more generally.
Yeah.
I think because they tax the deep middle of the field more. So I think that's fair too. Maybe not as much. It's not as big a change as the quarterback, but I think that Irv is a bigger part of the offense schematically.
Right. But he's a great route runner.
Yep.
For a tight end. He is his all around game is really, really nice. And he's gotten to that maybe quicker than OJ did. And
he isn't like you said, he might not be the elite athlete that OJ is, but he's good after the catch.
Yeah.
He's athletic after the catch. He makes plays in open field. Mitch, what did you think about either Irv or Ruggs or any of the other pass catchers?
I like Irv. He's pretty reliable if you can put the ball in a certain window.
Great hand. He doesn't drop anything.
I can't remember him dropping anything. Yeah. That's another.
I feel generally these receivers.
I was going to say that has been kind of an underrated aspect of how good these receivers are generally. Is they've all got great hands.
Yeah, they don't drop any.
Probably no more impressive catches. Well, other than the Ruggs catch, is Waddle's catch on the sideline.
That was a phenomenal play.
Yeah, the throw was ridiculous.
And the presence of mind to understand his position on the field, and it was really an NFL type catch, not just with the 2 feet, but also just the awareness of where he was. Totally agreed.
Yeah, it's become a point. It's gotten to a point for me where I'm I think there was a point in the season earlier where I don't know. I've said this before, but I'm like a total like draft junkie. Like I read mock drafts in like October just because that I don't know. It's fun for me. But I was kind of thinking about like which guys on this squad are really legit NFL prospects, and Jerry Jeudy is obviously one. And with the others, it's like, okay, how good are these? Like, are these guys looking great because they have Tua throwing to them? Like, what? Like, are like Ruggs and Smith and Waddle, like, are they better than like the 4- and 5-star talents Alabama has had that haven't panned out before? Your DeAndre Whites, your Kevin Norwood, like guys who maybe sniffed the NFL but aren't really producing guys. But these are maybe the jury's still out on Devontae Smith a little bit, and it's not quite fair to him just because he's been hurt.
How much did he even play against LSU?
He played and maybe got targeted once, but I think it's clear that he wasn't 100%. Yeah. But I think Ruggs is showing with his routes and speed and hands that he's a legit NFL guy. You knew just on speed that Jalen Waddle had that potential, and obviously he's so early and that's got a long way to go. But that catch in particular, that makes like, this is not just a speed demon right here. This is a complete receiver. So the potential for Waddle is really high. So, I mean, it makes you appreciate how complete and how talented this squad is, because not only do you have the best quarterback in Alabama history, a surefire Heisman winner, all these superlatives about Tua, but these receivers are really, really good. Like, this is not just like Alabama finally has a quarterback that can take advantage of their talent at receiver. This is the best receiving group they have. And I think that's pretty definitive that this is not purely a function of the quarterback, that they really are better at wide receiver than they've ever been.
I mean, Jerry Jeudy is like the third fastest receiver on the team, like a clear third, right? Like, I mean, that's crazy. Jerry Judy's really, really fast. And like Ruggs and Waddle are like definitely faster. Like, that's sort of like the athleticism and the explosiveness from this group is just insane. And I mean, Jeudy we haven't even talked about him yet. We've talked about all the other guys, and like Jeudy is, I mean, he
juked about 10 guys out of their shoes.
He's like I think I said this on Twitter, but like, he is probably the twitchiest Alabama wide receiver that they've had, like even more so than Calvin Ridley, who I think probably held that throw before this year. But I mean, Jeudy is just unbelievable in the open field. And I mean, I'm not an expert on what on like every team around the country and every player around the country, but there can't be more than like 3 or 4 receivers that are better than Jerry Jeudy. Like, he is phenomenal. I mean, he's got to be, I don't know what like the mock drafts for 2 years from now out say, but like Judy's got to be like a first round guy, I would think. Like, the size isn't great, but like, he's just tremendous.
Yeah.
So
all right, so let me see if y'all agree with this. To me, the way I look at these receivers is like, you've got this tier throughout Saban's tenure that's like Julio, Calvin, Amari, Judy's worked his way in there, and
I mean it's like those 4 guys are in kind of they're the Mount Rushmore, like, and it's really not a contest to say that anyone else is in that tier.
And then I feel like the rest of these guys on this team are in like their own second tier, and then it's like every other Alabama receiver.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's an interesting question. So so outside of the guys on this team, outside of all the guys on this team, and outside of the Mount Rushmore guys, who is the best wide receiver that Saban recruited? No, not when he recruited him, but who turned out to be the best?
Ardarius Stewart, probably.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's Ardarius, followed by like the guys I was like Kevin Norwood and DeAndre White, probably.
It's definitely Ardarius Stewart, though. You're definitely
If there's like if you were gonna say there's the Mount Rushmore, and then you say there's a second tier that has Ruggs and Smith, and it's early, but probably also Jalen Waddle in that group. Probably the only other Saban receiver that belongs in that second tier with those guys is Ardarius.
when I first asked that question, I for some reason our Darius just slipped my mind. But I think Mitch, would you say that he belongs in that tier with those? I would probably say
he would be
no.
the closest. Yeah.
Yeah. None of the other guys are. I think probably Kevin Norwood is
the third tier is like Norwood, DeAndrew White, and Marquise Mays probably.
Yeah. That's I agree. It's a great group. I mean, it really is. It really is an incredible group. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about the offense, or should we move on to, as impressive as the offense was, the defense was maybe more impressive? And I feel like there's a lot of things obviously to talk about on that side of the ball, but we should at least spend 5 minutes on like one player in particular on the defensive side of the ball. Who, I mean, we could do this every week, except and then you would think
we almost have done this every week, but it's like you can't not keep doing it. Like, oh yeah, this was his best game. This is.
Has he ever been under 90% by PFF? Like I don't like a single game.
No, he's the single highest rated player in the country, and I think he's been graded above 90 every single game this season, which is absurd.
It's crazy.
He's unblockable. He's like I didn't pay as close attention to other teams in back 10 years ago, but I can only assume this is what it was like to watch Ndamukong Suh at Nebraska, because he just there was a period like a full like 2 quarters where every time LSU had the ball, I just watched Quinnen. I was just like, where's Quinnen? And I watched him, and he beat his man on every single play.
Yeah. If there's one guy on him, that guy can't block him. It doesn't matter who it is.
If there's 2 guys on him and they're both holding him, they still can't block him.
That one, like the whole game was great, obviously, but like that one, there was a few times where he beat double teams, but obviously there's that one GIF in particular that kept getting shared over and over again on Twitter, where like he beats the one guy and he beats the other guy and they're holding him and he sort of drags his way through and gets to the quarterback. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think we've talked about, a few weeks ago, we talked about the possibility of him being like better than John Allen, and I kind of think I don't know if he's better than John Allen in the sense that like he's a better player, but I think he's playing better.
This is the most dominant season. I mean, it was crazy to say 2 years after John Allen's 2016. This is the most dominant season I've ever seen from an Alabama lineman. I
think this is the most dominant season I've ever seen. I mean, so obviously, like we didn't get to see like Derek Thomas or anything, but this is, I think, the most dominant season I've seen from an Alabama defensive player.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I was thinking like, who's the best player on this Alabama team? Because like I don't know if it's Tua. Like I might not be Tua. It really might be. I mean, that's crazy, but like Tua might not be like the best player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard to compare, right?
It's such a different. I mean, if you want to like try to use some level of objective measure like PFF, and again, all the disclaimers about PFF grades, but like, which is the higher graded player? It's Quinnen by a fair margin.
Yeah. I think he's great. But what I mean, everybody on the defensive side of the ball.
Everybody, both Christian Miller and Anthony Jennings played great.
Anthony Jennings' sack on the goal line was a great play. Like his get off there was ridiculous. Sort of his bend around the edge, like that was really impressive. I thought the inside linebackers played well too. I think that Mac Wilson like has clearly, starting with that Missouri game, turned the corner, and like we've kind of seen it every week. Like I thought he played well, and I thought Dylan Moses played well.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like I wonder if Mac's foot. Like I wonder how much of it is like his sort of attitude change. Whatever step up mentally he's taken since starting with the Mizzou game. Or I maybe wonder if his foot's getting better, because it's hard to tell. It's like, because those things feed each other, right? It's like if he's processing faster than he's reacting faster, which means he's getting there faster. But it also might be that just like, one, he might be moving faster because his foot doesn't hurt as much, and two, you know, right. when you're confident that you're not hurting yourself, guys just, you know, there's a whole mental physical feedback thing that goes on there. But whatever combination of those things is, and that wouldn't surprise me if it's something of both, but he's really played a whole lot to the point where, like, you know, I expressed as much skepticism as anyone earlier in the season. I was like, you know, I don't know if he should go pro after the year. Like, he's got the physical tools, but like, you know,
processing speed in the run game. Yeah.
I've done a complete, you know, if I was all the way there before the season on his potential and I was turned around halfway through the season on a complete 180 or 360 even on Max, like the level he's playing at, you know, he'll be a top 20 pick, I think. So he's done exactly what you would have wanted him to do over the span of like a month, which is really, really impressive. Like the step up in play that he's taken since that Arkansas game that's really impressive. I'm really, really happy with how he's done.
Yeah, and we called this out generally that that the biggest mismatch in this game going in was going to be the Alabama front against the LSU offensive line, and it definitely played out that way. I mean, they were bad. They were really bad. And I thought the secondary played well too. Joe Burrow made some throws, but you know, I thought I don't know. I was really pleased. I think Savion's played really well since the injury. So I mean, it really definitely seemed like this was like a very personal game for him. He was like seemed like really emotional about everything. Totally understandable. So definitely
he had one ticky-tack pass interference called against him, which if they had called the whole game at that level, there would have been about 5 of those on it. Like, certainly
either, like, I mean, maybe, but like that was like really like kind of far out of bounds, I thought.
But other than that, he was great. Patrick was great. Patrick in like CFB Film Room posted something. It's like top SEC corners and like passer rating allowed or something like that. And Patrick Surtain was tops in that. He was the best one.
Yeah.
Which,
They tackled so well. Like, I don't know how many, like, they might have missed like 1 or 2 tackles the whole game. Like, I can't even remember like many. So like that was just.
And that was something I was concerned about earlier this season. There was one point where I, you know, in some, maybe like the Arkansas game where there had been some issues in prior games. But at that point I was like, is this like the worst tackling Saban defense, you know, that we've had in like the last decade? But they were great on Saturday, and that's one aspect I think the whole defense has improved on over the last month or so. It's just tackling and not letting guys get away.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's now, you know, obviously like the Arkansas game was ugly, but, you know, 92nd percentile defensive performance against Missouri. And I think Missouri is a well-rated offense. And then 66th percentile performance against Tennessee, but that kind of feels fluky and real. Like they were dominating that game for so long, and then they just hit some like kind of 50-50 balls in the passing game. And now 94th percentile against LSU, really coming on strong. Mitch, what were your sort of anything about the defense that doesn't have to be related to anything we talked about?
Yeah, like this is the type of offense that I feel like Alabama's had figured out for a while. And so it doesn't help when the offensive line they have is not all that great to start with. It was just bad. Like, as much as I'd love to make fun of Joe Burrow, like he just didn't even have a chance to make plays in this game.
Yeah,
like,
and he made a couple throws. He made a couple throws over the middle, right? I mean, like, you know, he hung in there and he played tough. They were just outmatched, though. I mean, they were just really. There's almost not like a ton of interesting things to talk about with the defense, just because they were just like.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, just a summary thing, is that Yeah, I think Mitch makes a good point about this is the kind of offense that Alabama has always dominated against, which I guess that leads, okay, a lot of people made a big deal about the Ed O's comments afterwards. It's like, oh, we just need to recruit better in the trenches because we don't have the guys. And I don't know, I'm, like people were like, oh, he's throwing his players under the bus, but like, I mean, in some sense, it's true, right? Like the guys Alabama has are just better. The problem I have with that statement is that, like, okay, yeah, Alabama has better talent than you, but Alabama has better talent than everybody.
Yeah,
and
like there have been teams that have much less talent than LSU that have done much better than LSU did against Alabama.
And yeah, like Alabama's. Go ahead.
LSU's got most, like I went back and looked at it before the game. Like their recruiting over the last like 5 or 6 years is like, it hasn't really taken that much of a dip. Like everybody around them, like Alabama and Georgia, like those types of programs have gotten a little bit better, but like they have the same talent that they've had for a decade, it feels like.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, you can say like you didn't make any obvious schematic mistakes, but like, you can't. I don't know. Like, yes, it's a talent gap, and maybe in years past when things were more even between Alabama and LSU, you could say we're just going to line up and play with them, and we think we can beat them. And maybe you didn't, but you usually got close. Well, now things are a little different. Like, yeah, Alabama's got better guys than you do. They've got better guys than everybody. Time for you to find an offensive scheme that allows you to make up for that gap. But
go ahead, Mitch.
I was just gonna say this game just feels like a scathing indictment of Ed Orgeron. I don't know, just.
Well, I don't know. Like honestly, like that quote kind of bothered me. Like I thought that was bullshit. Like it's true. Maybe there's like a little bit of truth to that. That like the issue is the talent. Well, I'm sorry. It is true that the issue is like the talent. Like they just didn't, like, even if it's not a function of bad recruiting, like their guys just couldn't play against Alabama's guys. But like, can't say that after the game. Like I feel like you just, I mean, your guys just played, they were out there playing for 60 minutes. Like you were standing on the sidelines and like, you're the coach, man. Like you want to say that to them privately, like, like in film room or whatever, like y'all got to be better. Like, yeah, like, that's okay. But like, you're going to say that to the media, be like, yeah, our biggest problem is that we don't recruit well enough, and just like toss your guys under the bus like that. I don't know. I didn't like that. So in terms of like a scathing indictment of Ed Orgeron, is Mitch, are you talking about like it's sort of like all hype and not like a ton of substance there? Or
well, it's just like I just the whole recruitment thing is like, I'm not buying that at all. Like when you have teams like Tennessee, teams like Arkansas, that have like past Ole Miss teams that have had like less talent and have done much better than his team did. I'm just not buying that.
Yeah.
It's the gap between LSU and Alabama in recruiting that is why they got dominated so badly.
Yeah. I mean, for this year's Alabama team, like, I don't really think any of these SEC teams can play with them. I mean, maybe Georgia, we'll see. But like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, Ed Orgeron kind of isn't the kind of guy that I would want coaching my favorite team. Just with the general way that he carries himself. But, they just couldn't do anything on offense. I mean, I guess that's just the upshot here. Like they didn't really have a path to success in this game. Did you guys want to transition into Mississippi State for a little bit and then do some playoff talk?
Yep. I don't have a ton to say about Mississippi State.
They can't throw the ball.
They're seriously, they're terrible at throwing the ball. They are They are, let's see, third in rushing S&P plus. They can run even when you completely shut them down passing, which almost everyone does because they're really bad at throwing the ball. Although they've been better the last 2 weeks. They played well against Texas A&M, and they really dominated a pretty decent Louisiana Tech. Although actually Louisiana Tech is 91st in S&P plus. I thought they were higher than that, but Nick Fitzgerald ball pretty well against Louisiana Tech, but I mean they're still where is it? 87th in passing S&P plus. Yeah. And against LSU they couldn't throw the ball for shit, and they still managed to get it running a little bit, mostly with Nick Fitzgerald as a runner. He had 200 rushing yards. They only managed 3 points, but a lot of that was sort of red zone execution issues. They move the ball sometimes against LSU. But this just, I don't know. They'll do better running the ball than LSU did. But again, it's just hard to see how a team scores on Alabama when they just can't throw the ball at all.
Their offense has also been super bad on the road. So they've played so far this year they've played two SEC road games. Against Kentucky they scored 7 points, and it was a 31st percentile offensive performance according to S&P plus. And then against LSU, like you said, they scored 3 points, and it was a 10th percentile offensive performance. So not great. And yeah, so I think they're going to run Nick Fitzgerald so many times against Alabama. They are going to run him a lot, and they're going to have to try to stretch the field. I thought last year they got pretty creative in the passing game to have some success. I thought they had a really good plan. They threw a lot of interesting man beaters and stuff at Alabama. So I think they'll try to do that. And if Nick Fitzgerald throws the ball on Saturday as well as he did in that game last year, maybe they can move the ball a little bit more. But I don't even think they're going to be able to run the ball successfully against Alabama.
No, Alabama's front is so much better than LSU's.
And then on the other side of the ball, Mississippi. My impression of Mississippi State defensively is that they are good, maybe even very good, but there's a cap. They're not great.
They're 5th in defensive S&P plus, so they're they played really well. The main thing about that is their defensive line is phenomenal. Yeah. Sweat and Simmons are really, really great. Their individual they're just very good at everything, basically. If you look at, and you just got on their rushing stats, they're ranked 25th, 32nd, 38th, 28th, 15th. The only thing they're really top 10 is they're pretty good against the pass overall. Their sack rate is not stellar, but it's pretty solid. Not so much on passing down, not so much on standard downs, but on passing downs, 31st overall. That defensive line just kind of makes at everything because, that's the kind of thing a great defensive line does. But on the back end, and there's some pretty good outside linebackers, I think, but they're on the back end, their DPs are pretty ordinary. I don't see the Alabama receivers having any getting separation. And Tua probably has less time to throw on Saturday than he did last weekend against LSU, just because their defensive linemen are better than LSU's are. But I think he'll have open receivers all day, and they'll be able to put those linebackers in conflict just like they've done with everyone until they'll be able to pitch and catch off RPOs. I don't think as good as Alabama's offensive line is, I don't know, Mississippi State might put Tua under pressure, but he'll be able to get off balls quick because the receivers will get separation. I really don't think they're going to slow down Alabama much at all.
Yeah, Mitch, did you have any thoughts on the Mississippi State game?
I mean, just generally, to me, how much they win this game by is dependent on the kind of mental edge that they kind of bring into this game, you know, coming off.
Yeah, how much concern is there about that? Like the players did seem to really get up for LSU.
I mean, the line's like 24 right now.
Oh, did it? I guess was there a lot of pro Mississippi State
What
action?
like 20? It opened like 28.
It opened at like 29. Yeah,
insane. That's insane. I mean, S&P Plus says 18, so like that's pretty significant.
Yeah,
I would. If it's really down to 24, I would take that right now. I would jump on that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, so what do you think? I mean, no way to really know, but like, I mean, how does Alabama come out in this game? You know, for a while, like the post LSU game was somewhat concerning.
I like this should be one of the games where the offense can just come out kind of unchallenged and do whatever they want with maybe a few plays on the Mississippi State defensive line, but not enough to really limit.
I think the only question, like, there's no question that the matchup with the skill guys is great, probably on both sides. I guess the only really question that I have is, like, you know, with Alabama coming off LSU, and with Mississippi State coming off Louisiana Tech, and with, like you said, sort of the LSU after effects, and the strengths of like the LSU the Mississippi State defensive line, like, is there a chance that Mississippi State can kind of match Alabama's physicality in this game, at least early on, like come out and match that? I mean, nobody really does, you know. So like,
maybe the Mississippi State offense at first, if they have some,
and you know,
plays.
Joe Moorhead, like, you know, I'm as big a Joe Moorhead fan as anyone. I do think his offense is a little limited without, because I mean, he's such a big RPO guy. It's hard to count on them to do much when he has a quarterback that, as Spencer Hall said, like, throws like he has a hoof for a hand or something. And he's been a little better than that the last couple of weeks. Yeah. So, you know, he won't. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not a total disaster throwing the football, but I don't think he's like going to be better than Joe Burrow, and he certainly doesn't have the kind of talent around him that Burrow does. But I don't know. Like, there is some concern. I get, like, if it was going to happen at a point this season, I could see it happening now.
Yeah.
Just because the players got so up for that game, and they were so, like, you could tell how much that win and to win the way they did meant to them on Saturday. So just as a matter of human nature, you know, there's a possibility there's some letdown. I just think this is a game where, especially with the Alabama offense, like, talent is going to win out for them.
Yeah. I think the LSU game was really an example of, like, how sort of the coaching staff and the team were able to, like, give them this mental edge by leveraging the "you haven't played anybody" narrative, you know, because I know like some of the players, like I think Jerry Jeudy specifically mentioned that after the game about how, like, well, everybody said we haven't played anybody. Well, what do you got to say now? Like, I'm sure, like, the coaches, you know, really, like, kind of shoved that down the players' throats all week, and they had that mental edge, and you just worry a little bit maybe about this, but, like, you know, they're not going to lose this game.
Yeah,
and I don't think you're going to be close to losing it. It's just a matter of how many points are they going to win by.
Right.
Do we want to do predictions real quick and then do some playoff stuff, or?
Yeah. Yep. That sounds. Yeah. You want to do prediction? Okay. Yeah.
Let's say a kind of, you know, emotional lull from Alabama at the beginning of this game lets Mississippi State put a couple on the board, but then they run away with it. So I'm going to say 49-14. Actually, no, give me another 50 burger. Give me 52-14.
Ooh, okay.
It's been what? How many games has it been since they dropped 50? Did they?
Tennessee, right? But didn't they do it against Tennessee?
They did it against Tennessee. Yeah, okay, sorry. Well, only one time in the last 3 games have they hit 50 points. So I think they're going to do it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go like 40, 45 to 10, something like that.
I'll be conservative. I'll give sort of a conservative, but I will say they cover 38 to 10. So playoffs.
Yeah.
First quickly, Alabama's perspective, just to sort of knock that off. Alabama can definitely lose any of their remaining regular season games and still make it. That's set in stone, because they've already punched their ticket to Atlanta. If they get to Atlanta at 11-1 and they beat Georgia and they go to 12-1, there's nobody's going to keep them out. They will be the highest ranked one-loss team, and they are not going to be 4 undefeated, so they're in at 12-1 for sure. If they get to 12-1 as a result of winning their remaining 3 regular season games and then losing to Georgia, an 11-1 Georgia team in the SEC championship, what are their chances of going then?
A lock.
I
really think so. I mean, if they got in last year at 1, I just don't. There's any like Clemson would be in, Georgia would probably be in.
Say Notre Dame goes undefeated.
Yeah, Notre Dame's probably in.
Okay, so that's 12-0 Notre Dame, 12-1 Georgia, 13-0 Clemson. You've got 12-1 Alabama non-champ. Let's say you have a 12-1 Michigan champ and 12-1 Oklahoma champ.
First of all, I don't think Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is generally the kind of the 5th or 6th team to consider. I don't think they're behind Georgia now.
Okay. So
I don't know that I would necessarily just give Notre Dame a spot against Alabama because they're not going to have the conference championship.
But they're but I don't think they care about the conference championship. They're going to be 12-0.
But they'll be 12-0 against Michigan. Well, Alabama will be 12-0 in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, and you shouldn't get punished for playing that extra game versus a team that didn't.
I would say Clemson and Georgia would definitely be in, and then it's Alabama versus Notre Dame and the conference champs for the other 2 spots.
Yeah, honestly, I think 12-0 Notre Dame is very much I think they're ahead of Oklahoma, for instance.
I don't think they can keep out 12-0 Notre Dame.
I don't think they would, and with a head-to-head over Michigan, it would come down to. I mean, I could even see Alabama being the 3 seed, frankly, just because Alabama has been so dominant this season. I think it comes down to 12 Notre Dame and 12 of them for the spot, and then I think they're close. I mean, they're really not. Michigan has been clearly better since the 2 teams played, but the way the committee views things, it would be close enough that the head-to-head would kick in, and so they would put in Notre Dame.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, maybe the sort of the point is kind of moot because Alabama wouldn't even be compared. It's not like Alabama and Notre Dame would be fighting for that last spot. They'd both probably be in. It's an interesting conversation about what would happen if, say, there was another lock team on the same level as Georgia and Clemson, and then what would you do with Alabama and Notre Dame? But I guess we're all confident in saying that Oklahoma gets left out. And then, then it's just Michigan. So essentially, like you guys said, it's Alabama, 12-1 Michigan, 12-0 Notre Dame for 2 spots. You put it at 100% that Alabama's in.
Yeah,
it just if it's best team, there's just it's 100%. But there's so much fatigue around Alabama getting in as.
And they really do care about best team. I mean, they proved that last year. But obviously whereas Ohio State was relatively unimpressive down the stretch last year. Michigan has not been unimpressive. They have been impressive. And I guess in this hypothetical where we're talking about the chances of keeping Alabama out, we're kind of saying that, okay, well, Michigan plays really well in Columbus, on that last day. And they're not going to play anybody of particular note in the conference championship game. At this point, I have no idea who it's even going to be, like Northwestern or something.
There's
maybe.
like a solid 70% chance it's Northwestern.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's not exactly an opportunity for a quality win, but at the same time, they would probably roll. So they will have looked impressive. It would be a little interesting. I'm not quite willing to go with 100%. I would definitely like Alabama's chances, but we'll see. But sort of talking about now the playoff picture as a whole, ignoring just the Alabama-centric perspective. What is the most likely course here? So the most likely course is Alabama goes undefeated, and they get in. Clemson is even more likely to go undefeated than Alabama. They are
the ACC is so bad. So bad, and probably there's the current front runner in the ACC Coastal is Pitt.
Yeah, so that's not great.
The ACC Coastal is literally going to put Pitt in.
Yeah, so Clemson's toughest remaining game is this Saturday at Boston College. Game day will be there. But that's S&P Plus gives Clemson an 86% chance to beat Boston College. This is a decent Boston College team, but I don't think it's I don't think it's the defense that Boston College has had somewhat recently. It's not. I don't quite at that level of team. They would look, Clemson does some weird things every year. They might have already gotten their weird game out of the year when they survived against Syracuse. So I guess anything's possible, but that's pretty much, I would say, an absolute lock to go undefeated. And then there's Notre Dame, and Notre Dame has Florida State this week at home. Or no, is it at home or is it?
Is that a neutral game?
No, it's probably at home. It just doesn't say verse on the S&P Plus schedule, but it's got to be home. It's got to be in South Bend, though, I would think.
Yes, it's home. Yeah.
Okay, so they play them at home. That's a guaranteed win. Florida State is horrendous. Then home against Syracuse.
The Syracuse game is in that's the Yankee Stadium game, isn't it?
Okay.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Hey, Syracuse is pretty good, but that's probably a win as well.
Yeah, they're home in Yankee Stadium against Syracuse, and then at USC.
So they're less of a chance. They're less likely to go undefeated, obviously, than Clemson and Alabama. S&P Plus only gives them a 54% chance to go undefeated. I think they probably are, though, going to go undefeated. Yeah, they can be weird sometimes. They were kind of weird, this past week, but even though it was close, it was a 97% win expectancy.
Yeah.
They've been really good lately. Their win expectancy is in their last 6 games.
They haven't had, and that coincides with when Ian Book was the quarterback. So since he's been the quarterback, they haven't had below a 90% post game win probability against a fairly weak schedule. But I mean,
yeah, they had that weird game against Pittsburgh at home when they couldn't really score. But their win expectancy was still 97, and the expected margin, or the adjusted margin, was 18 instead of 5. So they've been really good. So I think that they're probably going to go undefeated. So the question then is for the other spot.
Yeah. What's Michigan?
That would
Michigan.
Sorry.
S&P likes Michigan a fair amount now. But they're still only at. I mean, they play Rutgers and Indiana, so they're gonna be 11-0.
Those
it's
are
just
both
a question
home.
of whether
Indiana's home, right? Because Indiana could be tricky on the road, but okay, but Indiana's home, yeah.
And then they play in Columbus, where S&P has them at a 62% win probability, which is not bad, but
it's still Michigan against Ohio State, though, and like I mean, I know that like this is the year when Michigan should win, and Ohio State seems like they got some weird shit going on, but I mean, would you guys say pretty confidently that they control their own destiny?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think if it comes down to 12-1 Michigan and 12-1 Oklahoma, it's 12-1 Michigan.
Yeah. Or 12-1 West Virginia.
Does Ohio State control their own destiny?
I think it's much more likely to be a close thing between them and Oklahoma.
Okay. Because they will have picked up a win.
So offensive and defensive S&P plus, Ohio State 3rd and 45th.
Yeah.
Oklahoma 1st and 53rd. They're basically the same team.
They're basically the same team. Yeah. Yeah. Ohio State in going undefeated will have picked up a win at Michigan State, which is a good win. A win at Maryland, which is not as good a win, and then a win home against Michigan, which is a pretty excellent win, and then a Big Ten championship win, which is not as excellent. But
and Oklahoma would pick up against Oklahoma State, which is their record's not. I mean, S&P still likes them, but
23rd.
So that's an okay win, Kansas, and then they'd have, in all likelihood, 2 wins against West Virginia. Yeah,
neither one in Norman, one in Morgantown, and one in wherever it is that they're playing the Big 12 championship these days. So Oklahoma probably, I think that Oklahoma probably needs the Big Ten to come, everybody to have multiple losses.
Yeah. Like Ohio State loses to Michigan State, but beats Michigan.
So then in that case, then Oklahoma would control their own destiny.
Yep.
And West Virginia would control their own destiny, or does Washington State sneak into the conversation here?
I think Washington State needs a 2-loss Big 12 champion and a 2-loss Big 10 champion, because one, I think the eye test probably just tells you that they're not as good as any of those teams, but also they ain't played nobody at a conference, and the committee has never put in a team that didn't play a Power 5 team at a conference.
Yeah, so here are just for posterity. Washington State's out-of-conference opponents are at Wyoming, at least they went on the road, San Jose State, and Eastern Washington. So Wyoming is 86th in S&P. San Jose State is a cool 125th in S&P, and I think Eastern Washington is a FCS team. So
yes. In recent memory has been a good FCS team, so they're probably I don't know how good they are this year. If they're as good as they've been in recent years, they're probably better than San Jose State is, but still an FCS team.
Yeah, still an FCS team. They are, I mean, you never are certain with anything that involves Mike Leach. And these games have been close. Like at Stanford, they only won by 3. And home against Cal, they only won by 6. But they play at Colorado. They really should win that game. Colorado's not good. Then they play home against Kevin Sumlin and Arizona, who I guess have been a little bit better lately, maybe. Have they been? They're up to 6.
Yeah.
They're up to 66 and S&P plus. But I think they're going to win that game.
Honestly, the only result that would surprise me of Washington State's remaining schedule is if they won all 3 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only like a 27% chance or something that they win out.
That's what it is.
Any combination of wins and losses in those games, like they might lose to both Colorado and Arizona and still beat Washington, who S&P still really likes because their defense is great. But no combination of wins and losses to those three teams would surprise me.
Who would they play in the Pac-12 championship?
It's either Arizona, USC, or Utah, maybe at this point.
Utah was leading, but then Utah laid an egg this week, right?
Yeah, so tied at the top of the Pac-12 South right now is Utah, Arizona, and USC, and then one game back is Arizona State.
So okay,
half game back actually.
So first of all, we think that not only does Oklahoma control their own destiny, if everybody in the Big Ten loses another game, but we also think West Virginia probably controls their own destiny as well. Both of those teams would then need to lose. Now, if that happens, if everybody in the Big Ten has 2 losses, and everybody in the everybody in the Big Ten, let's say everybody in the Big Ten has 2 losses. Okay. Does 11-2 Georgia with an SEC championship loss against Alabama have a chance? I'm just going to run by these teams with you guys. Does 11-2 Georgia have a chance against 12-1 Oklahoma?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, I skipped the Big Ten, which I assume that you guys agree with too. There's no reason to do the Big Ten teams.
I don't think you're ever going to see the committee put in a 2-loss First of all, I don't think you're ever going to see a 2-loss non-champion, barring some like real weird shit.
Okay,
and I don't see them ever going with a 2-loss non-champion over a 1-loss Power 5 champion.
So then I don't even need to do Washington State.
Nope. Yeah, like it's closer between 2-loss Georgia and 1-loss Washington State than it is with Oklahoma or West Virginia, but I still think it's probably Washington State in that scenario.
And Mitch, you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's talk about that weird shit that you just sort of referenced. Everybody in the Big Ten loses another game. So best team with 2 losses. Then best. Everybody in the Big 12 loses a game. It probably actually matters who ultimately comes out of this with 2 losses. But let's just say let's say it's the best case scenario for the Big Ten, and you're talking about a 11-2 conference champ Michigan. Michigan State beats Ohio State this week, and then Ohio State beats Michigan, but Michigan still goes to the conference championship game and wins. So 11-2 Big Ten champ Michigan, who lost at Columbus. The West Virginia and Oklahoma split their game, so one of them wins the regular season game, the other one, wins the Big 12 championship game. They end up with 2 losses, and Washington State loses. So everybody's got 2 losses or 3 losses.
Does Notre Dame win out?
Notre Dame wins out. Why does that matter?
Because it comes down to 1 chaos spot or 2 chaos spots.
But is that a chaos spot though? If in that area, Notre Dame's 11-1, does that open up?
They're probably in, but
everybody's got 2 losses at that point, except for a certain team in Florida. But like everybody else has 2 losses, so Notre Dame goes, right? Probably.
I honestly think UCF's gonna like lose to Houston or something. Like they're actually not very well favored to go undefeated. Okay.
So that's the other aspect of this too. Every conversation with UCF presumes that they're going undefeated, and as you're pointing out, that's probably not a safe assumption.
It's probably like less than.
Like 50. They only have a 53% chance. So they had a game canceled, so they only have a 53% chance of getting to 11-0. And then they would have to play a pretty solid AAC West team, probably Houston. So that's gonna their chances of going 12-0 are probably in the 30s.
But let's say they do. So 2 scenarios. Let's say UCF does go undefeated.
I mean, I would love to see. I'd love to just be like, let's get this done. Put them in. Like they're 12-0. Like S&P, like they haven't looked as dominant this year as they were last year. But I mean, like, say Pitt wins the ACC Coastal, like they would have I mean, they treated Pitt like an FCS team. They beat them 45-14, and yeah, the ACC Coastal is not great, but there's a Power 5 division winner that you beat like a yard dog. So like,
I mean, I want it to be UCF, but
yeah, I mean, I think they have a decent too.
What was that again?
I mean, they're top 10, and they're actually the second ranked G5 team in S&P after Fresno State. But I think they'd have a pretty solid case. And at that point, you're if all the other Power 5 champions have 2 losses, then I think that they would probably do it.
You agree, Mitch?
Yeah, that's definitely what it takes.
What if they lose?
No chance.
So who goes?
Probably still the Big Ten champ.
Yeah.
What if the Big Ten champ? What if Michigan wins out until the championship game, and then somebody from the other side beats them?
Then I think it's the 2-loss Big 12 champ
over Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Oh, Georgia. Yeah, 11-2 Georgia. In that case, maybe, yeah. Although, I mean, Georgia's like non-conference schedule was like Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia has not played a particularly rough schedule, but I don't know, if they destroy Auburn and Georgia Tech, then
and if they're competitive against Alabama,
yeah,
and the committee sees that just before they go into vote,
yeah, then that might make a difference. Good luck to them at that point.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like we always talk about these crazy scenarios, and then it doesn't, usually materialize. What if? Let's just one more. What if Notre Dame loses? What if Notre Dame goes 11-1? Say they lose at SC. Michigan wins out and Oklahoma wins out. Alabama and Clemson also.
Wait, so it's basically down. So Michigan wins out, Oklahoma wins out, Notre Dame loses one.
So three teams for 2 spots.
I think that's where the conference championship bumps Oklahoma. I really think Notre Dame needs to go 12-0 to get in over a 1-loss Power 5 champion.
Interesting. Mitch?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally.
What do we think happens? Who do we think are the playoff teams?
In that last scenario?
No. Just no scenarios or assumptions. Just who goes.
Right now, I don't know. It's hard to say that like chalk holding is the most likely because like I don't know, past history and statistics says somebody's going to lose because there's only like a less than 10% chance of everybody winning out, but there's not a scenario that's more likely than that one. So I'm going with Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan.
Mitch? Yeah. I just feel like that Ohio State Michigan game is like a toss up.
It's just so hard for me to
there's just so many scenarios that have to project for that 4th spot. I'll throw Ohio State in there at 4.
See, I want to put Ohio State in too, but like that seems so untrustworthy.
It's pretty.
The defense is so bad.
It's on brand for our for our show.
We do. We have been
very
supportive since the opening year of this podcast. I'll say Michigan. It's boring. So then the seedings would be Notre Dame would be 3.
Probably Notre Dame 3, Michigan 4. Yeah, I think that's probably where the head-to-head comes in. I mean, I think advanced stats show that Michigan is clearly better. I don't know if the committee will look that deep.
Here's just I asked that because we did have a question from Trill Gunderson sort of asking us about, I think, just generally like how we feel about Notre Dame, and then like, would you rather play Notre Dame than Michigan? So,
I got to run, so we'll have to wrap this up. But
yeah,
Michigan,
we could do it next week.
Yeah, Michigan is better. I think their defense is clearly better. I think their offense is improving. So,
okay. Absolutely. Well, we'll cover it more robustly next week.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Good show, y'all. And roll Tide. We'll see y'all next week.
Roll Tide.